The clinical trial landscape is facing a regulatory and commercial reckoning. For decades, the industry could bring a drug to market using trial populations that bore little resemblance to the actual patients suffering from the disease. That era has ended. Success is now defined by a specific metric, the participation to prevalence ratio. This requires trial demographics to match disease demographics within a narrow 0.8 to 1.2 variance. Relying on legacy, homogeneous trial sites to save on short-term costs is now a high-stakes gamble. Failing to meet these representation targets risks regulatory rejection and drives up long-term healthcare costs when drugs perform differently in the broader population. Securing a viable therapeutic pipeline requires life science leaders to deconstruct structural barriers and integrate new digital and advocacy frameworks into their core operations. This chart shows the scale of the historical failure. Between 2014 and 2021, fewer than 20. When her $19,000 grant was rescinded, it triggered a 10-month delay in recruitment. During that window, 5 potential participants were hospitalized or passed away. While genetic risk is not defined by race, specific high-risk alleles cluster within certain ancestries. Identifying these demographic groups is a scientific necessity for precision medicine. Overlooking these specific demographic clusters compromises the integrity of the study. It obscures the actual safety and efficacy profile of the drug, leaving researchers and regulators with an incomplete picture. Within the pharmaceutical industry, this lack of diversity is often the result of an operational obsession with speed. To meet deadlines, companies repeatedly use the same investigators at legacy clinical sites with proven recruitment records. Relying on legacy sites isolates trials to a homogeneous population, undermining commercial viability and creating regulatory risk. The alternative requires investing in diverse recruitment upfront. Though initial costs are higher, it secures market access and proves the drug's widespread efficacy. The economic fallout of releasing drugs based on skewed trial results extends beyond the pharmaceutical firm's balance sheet. It is projected to cost hundreds of billions of dollars in reduced life expectancy and increased disabilities over the next 25 years. Directly to audience, executives must recognize that any savings gained by using legacy sites are eclipsed by the long-term commercial damage caused by unrepresentative data. The regulatory framework is already shifting to address this, notably through the December 2025 FDA guidance on enhancing trial participation. The FDA's mandate is clear. Developers must use digital tools to reduce the burden on participants while simultaneously expanding public outreach. This digital toolkit begins with machine learning. Algorithmic models scan electronic health records to find the right candidates. AI can mine these records at scale, identifying the precise demographics and health conditions required for a robust study. Once identified, mobile apps and targeted social media outreach make it easier for participants to manage consent and schedule their appointments. But relying purely on technology reveals a significant failure point, a deep deficit of trust. Privacy concerns and digital literacy gaps drive skepticism, particularly among women and non-white individuals who are often wary of how their data will be used. If the uptake of these tools remains low, AI will likely widen the health equity gap rather than close it. The necessary counterweight is the human element, patient advocacy groups, acting as the credible link between researchers and the community. To be effective, these groups must be involved from day one. By shaping research priorities and ensuring culturally appropriate materials, they actually drive enrollment. While digital tools are efficient at finding the right demographic targets, only credible community advocacy can actually convince them to participate. For life sciences leaders, the strategy for the coming decade is no longer open for debate. Achieving the 0.8 to 1.2 prevalence ratio is a mandatory threshold for market entry. Operationalizing this metric requires 3 core actions. First, organizations must prepare for higher upfront recruitment costs as a necessary investment in the drug's long-term commercial viability. Second, they must pair the precision of AI-driven demographic targeting with the trust generated by patient advocacy groups. Without integrating both digital infrastructure and human trust, the trial data will fail to meet the new standard, and the commercial pipeline will stall.